Hello everybody and welcome to your first grade virtual field trip. My name is Brittany and my nature name is Timberdoodle. I work for Jefferson County Conservation and you might have seen me out at Jefferson County Park or some of our other areas. But today we get to have an awesome field trip about light and sound. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Let's start out with light. Light can come from all sorts of different sources, like a candle, a flashlight, a light bulb, lantern, campfire, or the sun. The sun is actually our main source of light, and it's super important. One of my favorite times to actually study nature and to be out in nature is at night when the sun goes away, because we really see how important it is. Here is a true or false question for you. The moon is out during the day. If you think what I just said is true, or that it is correct, you should mark a T on your paper next to question number 1. The moon is out during the day. If you think that's true, mark T on your paper. If you don't think that's true, if you think that's false, you should mark an F on your paper next to question number 1. The moon is out during the day. What do you think? If you said true, the moon is out during the day, you are correct. It's not always out, but it definitely can be. It's a lot of times we just think of the moon being out at night because it's really, really bright then. But it can be out during the day depending on where we're at on the calendar. Okay, here's your next true or false question. The moon gives off its own light. If you think that is true, mark a T on your paper next to question number 2. The moon gives off its own light. If you don't think that's true, mark an F on your paper for false or not true. What do you think? The moon gives off its own light. If you said F for false or not true, you are correct. The moon does not give off its own light. And we are going to do an experiment to discover how we see it lighting up in the sky. Here we go. Okay, for our experiment today, we are going to say that this lamp is the sun and that this mirror is the moon, okay? So if we would take away the sun's light or this lamp, do we see the mirror? Nope, it is dark. But if we turn the lamp on, we see the mirror. And not only do we see the mirror, but the mirror is actually reflecting the light from the lamp. The mirror is taking the light from the lamp and it's bouncing it to you. So this is the same thing as the sun and the moon. The light from the sun is hitting the moon, the mirror, and it's bouncing it into our eyes. So remember, when you see the moon, just remember that it is bouncing light to our eyes. The light's not coming from the mirror, from the moon. It's actually coming from the sun and bouncing that light to us. So if you would zoom out of Earth and zoom back all the way into space, and you would look at the sun, the earth, and the moon from outer space, here is what you would see. You would see the sun at the center of everything. Then the earth revolves, spins in a a circle around the sun. As all of that is happening, the moon is spinning around our Earth. So there is lots and lots of spinning going on with our Earth and our moon. So as our moon is spinning around our Earth, like this, and our Earth is spinning around our sun, like this, we are starting to see different things here on Earth. One of the things, as the moon is moving around our Earth, we start seeing different phases of the moon. The moon starts looking different to us here on Earth. So I want to go through the phases of the moon with you. The first phase that you might see is the new moon. The new moon is actually kind of boring. It's just a dark spot in the sky, okay? After that, it starts looking like a crescent. The actual official name of this one is a waxing crescent. But if you can just remember crescent, that's awesome. From the waxing crescent or crescent, it goes into this, the first quarter, where half of the moon is lit up and the other half is kind of dark. From there, it goes into one that's really kind of a silly word. It's called gibbous, a waxing gibbous. That's just crazy. This one is the opposite of a crescent, right? The dark spot right here is kind of in the shape of a crescent, but there's more than half of the moon lit up. That's the gibbous phase. Then we go to the one that's easiest to remember, the full moon. The whole moon, every part of the moon that we can see is bright. That's the full moon. Then it goes back into that gibbous form again, where we don't see the whole thing. It goes into the third quarter moon, where half of it is lit up and the other half is dark. It goes back to the crescent. This one's called the waning crescent. And then it would go back to the new moon and start all over again in a cycle, a big circle. But why do we have the different phases of the moon? The different phases come from which side of the moon we can see as the moon is circling around us on the Earth. The moon has two sides to it, pretty easy. It has the light side and the dark side. The light side is the side that the sunlight is coming off of the sun. The light is hitting that side of the moon and it's bouncing off of it back to us here on Earth. So we see the light side of the moon. The dark side of the moon is the side that the sunlight is not getting to. When you are in a dark room, anything that you would hold up to the light would have a light side and a dark side. The light side is the side that the light is hitting on and bouncing back off of. The dark side is the side that the light can't get to. It's hidden. It's in a shadow over here. So same thing with the moon. We have our light side that faces the sun and our dark side that faces away. If you were the Earth right now, you would see one of the phases of the moon. Which phase is that? You would see the first quarter moon. So you're seeing half of the moon that's lit and half of the moon that's dark. As the moon circles the sun, you start to see things from a different angle. So if you look right there, you can see more of a crescent shape. If we would keep circling all the way around the moon, you would see all sorts of different phases. But always the light side is facing the sun, the dark side is facing away. I hope that you enjoyed some of our experiments. Now I have a challenge for you that has to do with the moon. My challenge for you is throughout the next month, I want you to try and observe the moon. I want you to try and observe the moon during the day. This might look like you being outside at recess on a clear day with no clouds and seeing if you can look up and find the moon. You're not always going to be able to see it, but sometimes you might get lucky. Then I also want you to try and observe the moon at nighttime. This might mean looking out your window in the evening when it gets dark, or maybe when you're driving in the car. See if you can observe the moon and figure out which phase it's in. Awesome. I really enjoy studying light. Now let's move on to sound. Now we know that sound is just vibrations. And if they're really, really strong vibrations, then it's really, really loud. And if they're more gentle vibrations, it's more soft. So however strong the vibrations are, that depends on the loudness of the sound that we hear. Now, animals use this in all sorts of different ways. Let's take bats, for example. They use those sound waves, those vibrations, and they actually send them out by sending out this really high-pitched noise, and it makes the vibrations go through the air, and it hits off an insect and comes back to them. And that's how they pinpoint the location of their food. That's why bats are so awesome, because they eat lots of insects. Now, other animals use those sound vibrations, those sound waves in different ways. Like a deer has really big ears, and it can kind of turn them in order to channel, kind of catch those vibrations, those sound waves, and send them into their ears. Also, there's some different snakes that are really cool, and they can feel the vibrations, the sound waves through the ground, and they feel that actually on their chin, and they can send it up to their ear, and they actually hear through the ground because they feel those vibrations and they know that movement is coming. Animals use sound in all sorts of different ways, but one of my favorite animals that uses sound is owls. Owls are awesome. So here's your next true or false question. These right here are the owl's ears. Right here and right here. True or false? These are the owl's ears. If you think that these are the owl's ears, I want you to mark T for true on your paper next to question number 3. If you do not think that they are the owl's ears, I want you to put an F for false or not true next to question number 3. So question number 3 is it true or false? These are the owl's ears. What do you think? If you said F for false, you are right. These are not the owl's ears. These are called ear tufts or feather tufts, and they're just up there to make the owl look tough. But the ears are actually someplace else. And in order to learn a little bit more about an owl's hearing, we are bringing a guest star onto our show, onto our virtual field trip. Who do you think our guest star is going to be? Let's find out. Okay, our special guest is Miss Reifsteck, and we are going to do an experiment with her. I also have our other special guests, Kai and Emmy, and they're in preschool in the Washington building here. Okay, so for our experiment, Miss Reifsteck, you are going to close your eyes and keep them closed, and I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to hit these sticks together, and you're going to point in the direction you hear the sound coming from.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes.
Okay.
Very good. Good. All right, how did she do? Sometimes, you can open your eyes.
Okay.
When the sound was over here on this side, or this side, you did awesome. 100%, you get a gold star. But where was she kind of missing? When it was up here, and right up here, and behind her. And in the next video, you're gonna find out why that is. Okay, in the experiment, you might have noticed that if it was off to the side, it was pretty easy to identify which side the noise was coming from. But anytime the sound was somewhere in this middle line, right here, it was more tricky to figure out where the noise was coming from. And here's why. If you can follow along from home or school and do this with me, it will help you to remember. So take your 2 fingers and gently put them into your ear holes like this, okay? Now, if you look at my fingers, they are in a straight line. And most humans should have their fingers make a straight line. Now, if I were to say to an owl, take your feathers and put them in your ear holes, it would look something like this. They would not be level. There's always going to be an ear hole that's higher and an ear hole that's lower. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit on the distance, but this is a really important reason why owls have a great sense of hearing, much better than ours. So, for this example, I'm going to kind of teach you how an owl would use its sense of hearing to hunt. Remember, owls are nocturnal. They hunt at night, so they can't rely on the sunlight and their vision alone to help them hunt. They need to use their sound, their sense of hearing. So we have this little mouse over here, and it's rustling in the leaves, it's making some noise, and there's an owl up here sitting on a tree branch, okay? And it's getting hungry. So here's this mouse moving, and the owl turns its head. So all of those sound waves come into one ear, but not into the other. And by being able to turn its head and pinpoint that location, it knows exactly where that mouse is, okay? So it's identified that location and it's ready to fly down and get its prey. Okay, so here it comes. It swoops down, and as it's flying down, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Its wings are really noisy. That causes 2 problems. The first one is that mouse is gonna hear that whoosh, 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 and it's gonna run away. And if that mouse does move at all, the owl won't be able to hear it because all it will be hearing is whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. So owls have adapted to fly silently. Okay, here is your next question. I have 2 different wings that I'm going to show you. One belongs to a hawk and one belongs to an owl. And it's your job to figure out which one is which, okay? I want you on your worksheet to write down the number that goes with a wing for the owl, okay? So here's the first wing. You're trying to figure out if this is an owl. Now remember, it's a really big clue that owls fly silently, so the owl wing will be more quiet. Okay, here's our first wing. Wing number 1. Wing number 1. Here is wing number 2. Ready? Wing number 1. Wing number 2. What do you think? Wing number 1 or wing number 2? Which one belongs to the owl? If you said wing number 2, you are correct. An owl wing is really soft, but the one thing that's just so amazing about the owl wing is the fringe. It has this layer of fringe on the top of its wing that helps cut through the air and helps it to fly silently. This is a reason why owls are so well adapted to hunt at night, because they can fly without making too much noise. So owl wings help them to fly silently and to be a better hunter at night. Another thing that helps an owl to fly more silently is actually its feet. This is the foot of a great horned owl, and you'll notice that it has feathers that come all the way down to the talons. These feathers help to keep the owl flying silently. It just kind of helps cut the edge and helps soften the feet a little bit to make them, again, fly silently. Another really cool adaptation of owls to help it hunt at night. Now, a lot of animals that do hunt at night have big ears that they can use in turn to channel all of those sound waves into them. And sometimes when I am outside and I'm trying to hear something better, I'll take my hand and I'll cup it behind my ear like this. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to collect more sound waves and get them into my ear. If I were an owl and I wanted to do that, I wouldn't be able to fly because I would have my wings behind my ears like that. So that wouldn't work. Owls have a really cool adaptation where they've got that built in. If you look at this great horned owl and you look closely at the face, you will notice that there's actually a black ring that kind of goes around the face. And that actually shows that line of the cup that's built in to their head and into their feathers that helps channel those sound waves that bounce here, and they go right into the ear holes. So owls are just so well adapted to hunting at night. Thanks everybody for participating in our virtual field trip today. We hope you had fun learning about both light and sound. Today we talked about the moon and how it reflects light from the sun. And we also talked about owls and how they use sound to hunt. We hope you had fun. Bye!